Welcome back to Third Eye Music TV. And you know what that means.
We're going deep.
You got it. Deep, deep, deep into Robert Johnson's Terraplane Blues.
I think most people, when they first hear this song, it sounds like maybe just car trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe some relationship trouble.
Right.
But we're going way past that.
We're going to find out how Terraplane Blues is like a snapshot of the Mississippi Delta back in the late 1930s.
Okay.
A time of Jim Crow laws and a lot of economic exploitation for African Americans.
So we're talking about way more than just cars and heartbreak here.
We're talking about a whole system, yeah. To understand this song, you really have to understand the Delta as it was back then.
Okay, so set the scene for us. What was the Delta like in those days?
Okay, well, everyone knows about the Delta Blues, right?
Right.
But in terms of development, the Delta was kind of a late bloomer.
Oh, interesting.
Paved roads, for example, were pretty new, like Highway 61, the one everyone calls the Crossroads.
Right.
Wasn't even finished until 1935. Wow. Okay, Highway 61, that's where the legend says that Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil.
Yeah, that's the legend. But here's the thing. In the song, he's singing about this Hudson Terraplane hitting 80 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah?
But can you imagine trying to do 80 on the kind of roads they had back then?
I mean, they were mostly gravel, right?
Yeah, gravel or dirt.
You'd be eating so much dust.
Exactly.
So right away we see this tension in the song, right? You've got this image of speed and freedom, but the reality was that the Delta just didn't have the roads for that.
No, they didn't. And that idea of things being out of reach, well, that's even stronger when you remember who Johnson was singing to.
You mean like his audience at the time?
Exactly. We're talking about mostly black sharecroppers and tenant farmers, people who were just trying to survive.
So can you explain sharecropping for those who don't know about it?
Well, it was a system where farmers, instead of paying rent with money,
Right.
paid with part of their crops.
Okay.
Which sounds simple, but it actually kept them trapped in debt.
Oh, I see. Kind of like those buy now, pay later deals you see on TV.
Yeah, except the interest rates were sky high. You see, the landowners would provide the farmers with supplies and necessities and all the things that they needed on credit.
Okay.
They called it the furnish.
Okay.
But then they charged these crazy prices. And sometimes they cooked the books, so no matter how hard the farmers worked, they could never really get ahead.
They were stuck.
They were stuck. And this is where the song gets really interesting. Because in 1937, a brand new Terraplane cost $595.
Okay.
Which for most sharecroppers was more money than they would ever see. Like, it was this dream of escaping and having freedom and moving up in the world. But the system they were in made that dream impossible.
So the car breaking down in the song is about way more than just a faulty engine.
It is. It's about a system that was holding people back. And here's another thing. Get this. Some white landowners actually encouraged their black tenants to buy cars.
Oh, really? But wouldn't they want to keep those folks working the land?
Well, one landowner said that it was better for black folks to spend their money on a car instead of saving up for land.
Wow.
He actually said it was better to keep them from owning property.
Oh, that is cynical.
Yeah.
So you've got this system that keeps them in debt, but at the same time, they're being encouraged to buy this symbol of freedom.
Right.
Which could actually end up costing them more.
Exactly. It's a real paradox. And that's what makes the car in Terraplane Blues so complex. For African Americans in the Jim Crow South, a car meant the American dream.
Yeah.
Independence, status, all the things that they were denied.
So the car is like the symbol of hope, but also this potential trap.
Exactly. And that makes the song so powerful. It's about this specific time and place. But it also speaks to anyone who's ever felt trapped and frustrated, wanting something that's just out of reach.
Definitely. It's amazing how much meaning and history you can pack into a simple blues song.
Oh, yeah.
But there's more to the story than just the lyrics and the history. Right.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, Robert Johnson wasn't just telling stories. He was an amazing musician.
Oh, yeah.
And the way he uses his guitar and his voice in Terraplane Blues, well, that adds a whole other dimension.
Okay, so let's talk about the music. What's so special about Johnson's guitar playing on this song?
Well, his rhythm is just incredible. He blends these driving rhythms with these really intricate finger-picking parts and slide guitar, and it creates this feeling of movement, which is kind of ironic, considering how much the lyrics are about being stuck.
It's like he's finding freedom in the music, even though the lyrics are about all these limitations.
Exactly.
One thing I've always noticed about his slide guitar is how he doesn't overdo it.
Yeah.
Like those little vibrato notes really jump out because he's not using them all the time.
That's a great point. It shows how much control he had.
Yeah.
You know, he knew exactly when to hit you with that emotion.
Right, right.
And then there's that part in the fourth verse, he switches to this simpler single note pattern.
You mean where he's listing all the things that are wrong with the car?
Exactly. It's like the music kind of steps back.
Yeah.
Let those words really sink in.
It's so powerful.
It is. It creates this tension and then this release.
Totally.
And then just when you think he's going to let it all out, he pulls back and sings in that falsetto voice.
Please don't do me wrong.
Heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah. It really is. But it also makes you wonder who he's actually talking to, right? Sometimes it sounds like he's begging a woman.
Right.
Sometimes it feels like he's just sharing his pain with the listener.
Yeah.
And other times it's like he's showing off to other men about what he knows about cars.
I know, right?
It's really interesting.
That shifting perspective is what makes the song so deep, you know? It's not just a straightforward story.
It's more like he's exploring all these different emotions and experiences.
Exactly. And for his audience, knowing how a car worked, all those little details, that was like a secret knowledge.
Oh.
It was a way of showing your status and your smarts.
It's like he's saying, look, I may not have much, but at least I understand this machine. I have that power.
Exactly. That mastery, that understanding, it's a source of pride and defiance, you know, in a world that was constantly trying to put Black people down.
It's so interesting how you've got these detailed descriptions of the car's mechanics right next to these raw expressions of emotion.
Right.
The moans, the hums. It's like they're saying something beyond words.
They are. It's like the weight of it all, the oppression, the frustration, the heartbreak.
Yeah.
It's so heavy that words just aren't enough.
And those sounds are so powerful because they make you feel what he's feeling.
They do.
Even if you don't understand exactly why he's hurting, you can feel it.
It's a reminder that the blues is about more than just entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
It's about sharing those experiences, connecting with other people on this deeper level.
And sometimes it's about coping with things that are hard to even talk about. Like in the song, you've got this tension between hope and despair.
Right.
There are these lines about getting deep down in the connection, sparking the fire, starting the car. Like he's talking about overcoming obstacles and moving forward.
Right.
But then there are these moments where he's pleading, admitting that there are limitations, that there are dangers.
It's like he's going back and forth between hope and despair.
And that's what makes the blues so powerful.
It does. It's not about pretending that everything is okay.
Right.
It's about facing the pain and the struggle.
Yeah.
But also finding a way to keep going, to find some joy in the middle of it all.
And Robert Johnson does that so well in Terraplane Blues.
He does.
He gives us this incredible portrait of life in the Jim Crow South.
Yeah.
Using this car metaphor to talk about desire and frustration and power and resilience.
It's a song that speaks to everybody.
Right.
But it also shines a light on the specific moment in history.
What always gets me is that the song doesn't really have an ending.
What do you mean?
Well, we know he's going to try to start the car, both literally and figuratively.
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, true.
Will he find what he's looking for? Will he overcome the obstacles? We don't know.
That's what makes it so interesting, you know?
Yeah.
It lets you come up with your own interpretation,
Right.
connect it to your own life.
It's like Johnson is saying, here's my story. Now what's yours?
Yeah.
How do you relate to this struggle? How do you find your own power in a world that seems against you?
That's a good question.
You know, it's funny. Before we started this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
I always thought of Terraplane Blues as a pretty simple song.
Yeah.
Like catchy tune, car trouble, maybe some relationship stuff. But now it feels like a whole new song.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you understand the background of a song, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're all about in these deep dives.
Right.
Uncovering all those layers of meaning.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our look at Terraplane Blues, what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important thing to remember is that it's about way more than just a broken down car or some love triangle.
Right.
It's a reflection of what life was like for Black people in the Jim Crow South.
Yeah.
The anxieties, the dreams, the real dangers they faced every day.
It's about being trapped by the system.
Yeah.
and wanting a better life,
Yeah.
but not being able to reach it.
That's it. And it's also about the power of music to give a voice to those experiences, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. To take pain and struggle
Right.
and turn it into something beautiful, something that speaks to people.
Exactly. Terraplane Blues reminds us that the blues isn't just music.
Right.
It's about the human condition.
Yeah.
It's about facing hard times, finding ways to cope,
Yeah.
finding joy even when things are tough.
Yeah. So next time you hear Terraplane Blues, I hope you'll listen with fresh ears. Don't just think about the cool guitar riffs or the lyrics. Think about that deeper story.
Right.
Think about the history, the economics, the things that people were worried about back then.
Let it make you think about all music, the stories it tells us, the ways it reflects our lives.
Because sometimes the most important truths are hidden in plain sight.
They are.
Yeah.
Just waiting for us to discover them.
That's a great way to put it. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Terraplane Blues.
My pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed the ride.